Welcome to this how to use the Virtual Articulator in Ortho Analyzer training video. We also have another video explaining how the Virtual Articulator works in Appliance Designer, so I'll definitely recommend that you check that one out. My name is Henrik Brandt and I'm joined today by my colleague Rudi Labor. Hello Rudi.
Hello Henrik.
So before we get started, I just want to get into what the Virtual Articulator is. Well, sort of as the name indicates, the Virtual Articulator is a virtual representation of a physical articulator. So this allows you to modify the alignment of the jaws with the occlusal change. It allows you to set up the articulator model and adjust the placement on the models. You can evaluate and adapt the designs. You can imitate the articulator motions. You can customize the motion sequences and you can record the contacts or collisions. So what you'll learn in this particular video is how to modify the alignment in the jaws with the occlusal change, how you actually set up the various articulator models that we have, and how you adjust the placements of the models. You'll also learn how to evaluate and adapt the setup. And as I said before, imitate the articulator motions, how to customize those sequences, and finally how to record the contacts or collisions. So without further ado, Rudi, why don't we open Ortho Analyzer and you can tell us how it works.
Yes, sure.
Okay, Rudi, I can see that you have opened a model in Ortho Analyzer here as normal, so why don't you tell us how it works?
Sure. On your right hand side, you have what we call the visualization toolbar. There's an icon for the virtual articulator, so please click on it.
And it even says articulator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A small window will pop up on your left hand side with different functions. We're going to start with the first one, which is how to modify and align the different models, right? You have the possibility to set them in order to get the best fit. So by selecting either the maxilla or the mandible, left clicking on the control points, hold, you have the ability to move the models to the desired position.
Got it.
If you want to reset the model into the static occlusion, you can left click the left window on your left hand side.
Okay.
Or if you're satisfied with the new position, then simply click on the icon with the padlock.
So that will lock sort of the occlusion. Okay. Yep.
Exactly, the current one. So very often people will use also the occlusal change that give you the ability to change the bite. So if you want to create, for example, an open bite, you simply enter the value here, or you can also use the black arrows.
All right, I see this very subtle change here. Yeah. So I guess it's up to personal preference whether you want to add and enter it yourself or use the sliders.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Sometimes optimized occlusion will just give you the best fit, right? With a minimum of contact. Now I'd like to go to the next one, starting from the left hand side, so the second icon. Set up articulator model and adjust placement.
Yep. Okay, now the virtual articulator is in place.
So in this section, we have many possibilities. First of all, I guess you would like to choose among the different type of articulators we have.
Right, especially if you have one physical already, you want to see the same one. Yeah.
Exactly. The idea here, so we have the different articulators, and for each articulators we have different settings and parameters.
Right.
All right. So everything here is here on your. You have the different functions. So Bennett left, Bennett right, protrusion angle. All this is to replicate what you have in the physical articulator.
Yeah.
So you go and set exactly the parameters accordingly, and the virtual articulator will replicate all the motions.
Okay, so a quick takeaway here is if you're used to working with articulators in the physical world, physical models, physical articulators, you should relatively quickly be at ease here.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So first of all, you choose the type of articulator that you want to utilize, and second, you'll have also the possibility, using different functions, to perform the placement of the models within that same articulator. So one of the options, analyze scans without for use without adapter plates. If you check the box, you can, in the drop-down menu, choose among the different existing planes.
Okay, I recognize those planes. Yeah.
Or create a new plane.
Yep.
But beforehand, and utilize this plane to perform the placement of the models.
Okay, so basically those planes that I know that we created before in Ortho Analyzer, these are the ones that you now reuse.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if I was to choose the occlusion plane, for example,
Yep.
and click on perform placement, it will automatically place it exactly according to what we have defined as landmarks.
Yeah. It was probably a little bit difficult to see in this video because the change was so subtle, but there was a little change if you rewind the video.
If I will just change it again, redo it just to make it visible, noticeable.
Yeah, this will be a big change, I guess. Yeah.
Use guide plane, so that's very important to check this box. Left click on the black arrow and select
Occlusion plane again.
Occlusion plane. Then perform placement, left click.
Okay, no need to rewind the video now. Thank you.
So once you've done that, I'd like also to show you different possibilities. Very often people will use Facebook and
a Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. And they will ask, what is the possibility that offer 3Shape to translate this position into the digital world? So one of the possibility, the only one I know, is to mount the model into articulator using some plate transfer that we have, 3Shape have. And using this plate transfer, the position will be transferred into the PC. So therefore, we'll have the ability, by checking this box
with adapter plates.
Exactly. To not only to use the new placement, customize it and swap between the two. So we'll have initial placement and the customized placement.
Right.
Okay, you can't retrieve, because a lot of people ask me, but what are we supposed to fetch for here? You browse for something that you have initially entered into the PC. So that is only if you use the adapter plate.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this new position can be set as the default one. These windows you see here, and I think we have already explained a little bit what it is. In order to set the parameters, you have to left click inside the window and use the black arrows to set these parameters.
Yes.
All right. So that takes me to go to the next one, which is use the articulator to evaluate and adapt the design. So of course here we don't have any design that we want to adapt. So of course that would be more if you want, for example, if you're moving the teeth and you want to detect some, make some detection of the new collisions, you will probably go in this section, run the motion to evaluate the different collisions.
Okay, and you will show us how this works.
Exactly. Yeah. So in here, first of all, you also have the ability, as we had it before, in modify the alignment of the jaw, to create an open bite, but this time using the axis. So it will simulate the movement of the jaw. So I will have to click in opening here. So first activate on, opening. Okay, what we're supposed to observe here is the mouth, the mandible opening up according to the axis. So instead of create an open bite vertically, it does it using the axis. So it simulates the movement of the jaw. So either you enter the value or you use the black arrows to create this simulation.
Like in all the other fields. Yep.
So there's one tricky part here. In order to lock the position, the new position, the current one, you will have to return into modify alignment of the jaw.
Okay.
To lock.
So back to that one and then use the lock like we had before. Yep.
Exactly.
Got it.
The same. The different movement, if we talk about the lateral medial protrusion, all this movement can be locked or set to reach, they can be constrained basically to a certain degree of movement. If you want the translation movement go not further than a certain value, then you can set the value here in order to make sure that it doesn't exceed it.
Yep.
Right? This movement can also be locked and unlocked at will, depending on what you are trying to perform.
Okay. So basically when you click the little hand and there's sort of a stop sign over it, means that you have locked this into the constraints. Yep.
Exactly. So if I do so, for example, I will take one of the movement, the lateral movement, for example. If I left click, you see you have this red dot. If I left click and try to hold and grab the pin, I can only open the mouth, but I can't move them sideways.
Okay, because you locked that lateral medial-trusal. Okay, understand.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Right. On the other hand, if once I unlock it, now I'll be able to do this movement.
Yeah. So again, you place the red dot and you keep your left mouse button down, and then you can do the movement.
Exactly. Whenever you want to move it manually, you have to left click and hold.
Yeah.
That's very important.
And I guess what you showed us before up here in the upper right corner, just like when you have a normal model on screen, you can do these front views, top views, side views, like in rest of Ortho Analyzer.
Exactly. That's very important to mention that because, I've seen a lot of people,
trying to find the right.
Exactly. It can be very difficult to get the right view. So use the preview.
Yeah. So there are these 6 previews like we have everywhere else in Ortho Analyzer.
Exactly.
Yep. Excellent. Okay, Rudy, what else do you want to show us here in the Virtual Articulator?
Yes, you have probably noticed here on the top you have an L that can be changed into a U. So.
Oh, very exciting. I guess it does a little bit more, right?
Exactly. So L standing for lower and U for upper. So this U and L button are the different jaws. So depending on which one you select, you will have the ability to move either the maxilla or the mandible. Yeah. That's basically what it does.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah.
And the button which is just right next to it is to reset the articulator to the static occlusion.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
And then there's something with contact mode.
Yeah. So the contacts are, keep contacts is very important because whenever you make a setup and you want to detect the collisions, it's very important for you that once you have completed to run this motion, to still have the ability to see where it collides. Because if the points, the traces disappear, then you have a problem. So by keeping the contacts, you know exactly what needs to be corrected and how. So that's the reason why you will have to check that box. But that you will do it when you'll be in the virtual setup. So here. So the disclaimer sometime at the beginning when you make a new installation will probably pop up, so you can, in order to
and we have a separate video on Virtual Articulator. So.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, on Virtual Setups.
Yeah. So here, for example, at any time during the planning process, you can move any of the teeth. Okay. Use the preview to get back to the proper position. Click on the play button to animate the motion. And as you can see, it takes into account the fact that I move the tooth.
Yeah, just like the occlusion map tool, you can see where the contacts are. Yeah.
So here, I can not only hide the virtual articulator, that will probably ease the process to view exactly what happened. Also hide the mandibular model and go directly.
Right, yeah. There we see it right away.
Exactly. So this is why it is very important, in my opinion, to keep the contacts so you can see exactly why it collides and correct it at will.
Yep.
Okay. I'd like also to mention the fact that the pin can be hidden. If you left click here in the middle, you need to, since we are in the virtual articulator, I have to click on the top of the window.
Okay, because you were in virtual setup, so you need to go back and make that active.
Exactly, so that's very important. That works for most of our features.
Yeah.
In the software,
like the 2D measuring tool, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's very important. If you notice that you can't use some of the tools, make sure that they are highlighted on the top.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Then a right click, on the pin, and you see I have show incisor pin, so that can be deactivated or activated. And this time I have to click on the top of the articulator to get the same message and reactivate.
Well, easy.
Okay. Well, something else I haven't mentioned yet, which is the color that can be used to detect the collisions. So we have a compass with different colors. I think we have blue and red, so that can be changed here. And something else is to customize the motions. So we have like one standard sequence. So it could be it will start by the lateral and then medial protrusion round trip, ended up with the protrusion round trip. But you could reverse that. Or just make it as you wish. So
it's sort of a sequence or script of how this motion video you showed us before, how that works.
Exactly.
You can construct that to your liking.
Yeah.
Okay.
As well as set the parameters.
Right.
Okay. Well, for the virtual articulator, I think that's about it for Ortho Analyzer.
Okay, thank you very much, Rudy. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we also have another shorter video on how Virtual Articulator works in Appliance Designer. So I recommend again that you also see that to complement this video. So that concludes the video. Thank you very much for listening.